stunningly beautiful day today. Nice warm sun. It's awesome. I have a choice to make. I could either camp on this island right here in front of me, or I could continue on. Choosing to do this portage today makes today a really long day. It was my first ever canoe carry in the books. One thing that's really struck me about all these bodies of water is how clear the water is. It's just crystal clear. Awful lot of fanfare just to get out and do it all over again, but it has to be done. I can see water now, baby. I made it. That was pretty rough, but we're almost there. I'm basically just gonna shoot across that pond. All right, home sweet home. I'm at the north end of the Follensby Clear Lake right now, and I have a choice to make. I could either camp on this island right here in front of me and have kind of a relaxing afternoon, or I could continue on and do one, looks like 200 meter portage, and then another one right after it that looks like just under 1,200 meters. And that would get me to Hoel Pond. It's only 1 p.m., so I'm leaning toward doing the portages. That'll make tomorrow a lot easier. Canoe carried a green pond. Okay. This is not the one I want. I want to go to Follensby Pond. Somewhere over there. Here we go. This is just a quick 200-meter portage over to Follensby Pond, but we're only on the pond for another 100 or 200 feet, and we hop off again and do another portage that's closer to 1,200 meters, which will take a little while. I think my strategy is going to be to carry the canoe first, because I think that's going to be more difficult. So then I'll come back for the gear, which should be a little bit easier on the second run. It's currently 20 past 1 in the afternoon. If I can get onto my site on Hoel Pond by about 3 p.m., which I do think is doable, that'll give me a couple hours of daylight before it starts getting dark out here. Oh, I made it to Follensby Pond. That portage was pretty much nothing, but it was only 200 meters. Next one, almost 1,200. That'll be quite a bit more. This boat's about 60 pounds. Hell of a lot lighter than my green canoe, but still a lot to carry. I'm out of breath. All right, let's go grab our stuff. It was my first ever canoe carry in the books. Now for an extremely brief paddle and on to the main event. Awful lot of fanfare just to get out and do it all over again, but it has to be done. There's no direct route to Hoel Pond from here, from what I can tell. The good news is once we get this longer portage done, we won't be too far from a campsite. A big fish right there. Wow. It's a nice campsite. Little beach and everything. That looks like a portage sign right there. This is a beautiful spot right here, honestly, but there is a road that runs right along the back of these sites on this shoreline, so there's more of a potential for you know, noise and neighbors. So I'm gonna move on. It's 2 p.m. pretty much right on the dot right now. I'm hoping that this portage takes about an hour. That gets us to Hoel Pond at 3, and I can't imagine needing much more than a half hour, 45 minutes to get to the campsite from there, because I'm basically just gonna shoot across that pond, and there's a couple options over there. Choosing to do this portage today makes today a really long day, but it makes tomorrow very, very easy. And then that'll give us a little bit of extra time to hike up the mountain that's accessible from that pond if we choose to do that. So worth it to get more out of the way today, I think. Here's that road I was talking about. I can see water now, baby. "35 minutes later, we're on Hoel Pond. That was pretty rough, but camp's right over there, so we're almost there. Just gonna go back and grab my stuff, but that should be a lot easier than carrying this thing. Stunningly beautiful day today. It's like low 60s, bright, clear blue skies, nice warm sun. It's awesome. It's gonna get cold tonight. I think it's gonna get down to around 32 degrees here. But tonight is the coldest night of the trip. The other 2 nights are gonna be in like the mid 40s, which is comfy. I made it. So we started here at Spider Creek access on Follensby Clear Pond, paddled up through. This was the short portage into Hoel Pond, and then this is the long one we just did at 1158 meters. So we're here at the south end of Hoel Pond, and there's a couple campsites right across there. In fact, actually right at the tip of this point, if I'm looking at this correctly, and then down the shoreline back. So this is where I'm hoping to end up. There's an extremely short portage into Turtle Pond and several more sites there if I have to, but it would be nice to just go over there. It took pretty much exactly an hour, so my prediction was accurate. Gonna head straight for that point right out there. So that was pretty tough, but this worked out pretty well actually. I should be to my site well before 4 p.m. Able to set up completely before dark. One thing that's really struck me about all these bodies of water is how clear the water is. It's just crystal clear on every single one. Kind of looks like a track right there. Yeah, I don't think I like that. I'm gonna move on. There's another one right around the corner actually. Is that the second one? I can see a footpath. Really don't want to have to go all the way up there if I can avoid it. Maybe I should have tried one of the spots on the southern shore. Definitely not going back though. The last one is over by the bridge. See what looks like a landing here. Worth checking out anyway. Yeah, I see a disc up there. All right. Home sweet home. Not a bad view. Well, I have about 90 minutes of daylight left. It's pretty late in the year, so the days are quite short now. This site is fantastic. It's nice and flat up here. We're way above the water, so we have an awesome view across the lake, and we're facing west, so I think we'll get a cool sunset tonight. I had ambitions of open camping under a tarp, but there's nowhere that's near trees that's also flat, so I just set up the tent to be done with it. Now that I'm here, I'm really glad we decided to do the long portage. We passed by a couple of really nice campsites. There was one on an island on the first pond. I think it was Follensby Clear Pond. Way up at the north end, those island sites would have been really nice, but they were right by the launch, so I wouldn't have really gone anywhere. And then that beach site on Follensby Pond was probably the nicest site I've seen so far. And I probably would have been happy there, would have had a lot more time to lounge, but now that I'm here, you know, I have one of the more difficult parts of this entire loop behind me. Tomorrow, we're gonna paddle a few hundred feet down to the bridge and immediately do a very short portage, but that'll get us into a pond. We'll have to line to the next pond because the water levels are pretty low now. And then we'll end up in another pond, and I believe it's a portage from there into Long Pond, where I plan to stay tomorrow night. But the second portage isn't very long, nowhere near as long as the one we just did. And all in all, I actually think tomorrow is gonna be a pretty short day. So once we find camp at Long Pond, we'll be able to hang out for a bit. So yeah, I'm gonna go find some wood and get a fire going. That one's wet. Well, there's no shortage of deadfall. It's all over the place. I was being a little picky and just looking for like a piece of hardwood that would last a little while, but a lot of the stuff's been on the ground for a while, so I might just end up going with that pine tree back there. A little punked out around the edges, but all of this is good wood. So this is, I think I mispronounced this earlier, this is Follensby Clear Pond. We started here at the Spider Creek access down on the south end. Then we kind of crossed to the point here, and these little red X's are all campsites. We didn't like these two, so we ended up at this campsite up here. And then we flipped the maps. So here's Hoel Pond here, here's where we're camping, here's the bridge, here's Turtle Pond, and we'll go through here tomorrow morning. And then this little choke point right here, I was told that I'm gonna have to line the canoe through because water levels are really low. But then we get into Slang Pond, and then there's this portage here, just 351 meters, so not too bad. And then we get out into Long Pond, and this is our goal for tomorrow. And you can see all these red dots, these are all campsites we can stay at. Ideally, I'll end up somewhere over here because what we have here is a hike up to Long Pond Mountain. Apparently the views up here are really nice. And if I can get a site around here, I'd love to do this maybe tomorrow night as a sunset hike. I bet it would be really pretty up there at sunset. Then I could just hike back down and do a quick paddle back to my campsite. Once we're done at Long Ponds, we have another really long portage right here. This will take us to Floodwood Ponds. This is 1,373 meters. This is actually longer than the one over here that we did today. So not exactly looking forward to that, but we'll hit it first thing in the morning anyway. And then we'll flip back over again. So here's the long portage, here's Floodwood Pond. And essentially what we'll be doing from here is following this little river here to little square ponds, and then through here This is a Fish Creek right here, all the way down into Square Pond. And then we'll cross here into Fish Creek Pond, and then go up this little creek here, and then get back to this is where our car is right here. So this whole thing here is the loop. Sun just went down behind the trees. It's 5:45. The air is still really comfortable. I'm wearing just like a really thin sun shirt and I'm still fine temperature wise. The breeze that kicked up when we got on this pond is gone now, and it's just glass. It's so beautiful. Well, it's 9:30 and I'm headed off to bed. Fire died about 15 minutes ago. It's gonna be a cold night tonight. I'm actually bringing my water filter into my sleeping bag with me so it doesn't freeze, because it's supposed to get down to 32 like I said. So I'm gonna set my alarm for just before sunrise so we can catch it, and then we'll get on with the day tomorrow. See you then.